Hello and welcome back to my channel. I have something that I think is really fun planned for all of us today. I've had this idea in my head for probably a couple years and finally am making it happen. Now, I am going to be aging myself just a little bit, but I think some of you may join me in remembering back to when we were growing up as kids and Saturday mornings was known as Cartoon Day. At least that's what it was known as in my home, because Saturday mornings was the only day of the week that we could watch cartoons. And so my sisters and I always looked so forward to the lineup of cartoons that we would be watching every Saturday. We kind of had our shows that were our favorites. We knew what time they were going to be on and we would tune in if we could. Now, sometimes we had to do Saturday morning chores, so it didn't always pan out, but very frequently we referred to Saturdays as Cartoon Day because that's what we did on Saturday mornings. So I have thought for years that it would be fun to kind of recreate the fun of a Saturday morning and bring back that fun excitement of having shows to look forward to on a Saturday morning. So I have teamed up with some of my Moda friends to bring you Saturday Social, and all of us today have videos up where we are chatting about ornaments. It seemed appropriate with the holiday season just upon us, and you'll have to let me know if you enjoy this sort of setup where on a Saturday morning there's a group of us and we're all talking about a certain topic, and you can kind of hop from one channel to the next, seeing what we all have to share. And if you have ideas for topics that you think would be fun to see from channel to channel, maybe it is a sewing room tour day where you can hop to and from and see sewing rooms, or maybe it is a springtime quilt pattern lineup where we're all sharing maybe a block or a quilt that has a springtime feel, those sorts of ideas, but where you would have a whole lineup of channels that you can hop to and from and get ideas for whatever the topic might be. For today, we have myself and Sherry McConnell of A Quilting Life, Joanna of Fig Tree Quilts, Heather of My Sew Quilty Life, and Robin of Robin Pickens. So I have all of their blogs linked, I have all of their YouTube channels linked in the description box below so that you can check out their channels and see what fun they have to share with us today. For my video, I am going to be sharing a no-sew ornament tutorial. These little ornaments are ornaments that I made for my quilt market booth. They feature Starberry fabrics. You can see there's 6 different ones here, and it's just a fun, quick project. If you were here last Saturday, you saw these little guys hanging on my Christmas tree in that video. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you how we can make these. The first thing that you will want to do is, or watch the video and then pop over to my blog, but over there I have the template pattern that you are going to need to print out that features the quilt block motifs for each of the blocks. So there are 6 different options that you have available to make, and then on this same printable I have included the supplies that you're going to need to make these cute little ornaments. So you will want to either right now pause the video, go over and print it out so that you can follow along, or watch the video and then pop over onto my blog and print out your template information. This is linked below so that you know where my website is to print this out. Print out the template. Make sure that your little square down here measures 1 inch. If you print it correctly, that will measure 1 inch. You will want to make sure that you don't have any scaling set for the printing. That means you don't want fit to page checked. You don't want enlarge or a different percentage checked. You just want it to print exactly the size that it is. And this square will measure 1 inch square if it's printed correctly. The next thing that you're going to need is heat and bond, and I am recommending Ultra Hold because this is a no-sew project. We are not finishing the edges on our shapes, and the Ultra Hold is going to hold those in place better than some of the other options. Now you can purchase heat and bond on the bolt like what you see right here in your local quilt shop. Joann's carries it. It's a pretty common item. You can also purchase it in already cut sizes, just individual packages, and that is the other option. I myself prefer purchasing it off the bolt just because then you don't have to worry about any creasing as you sometimes do in the packages. So you'll need just a little bit of heat and bond Ultra Hold. If you only have the light option, that is certainly something that you can use. Do keep in mind that the Ultra Hold will secure those edges a little bit more firmly than some of the other options in heat and bond. Now you can also use a different paper-backed fusible web if you have a different product that you prefer using. I did a lot of applique over the years, and so I have landed on heat and bond as my preferred fusible web, but you might have a different option that you like to use, and that is just fine. The next thing that you're going to need is your print fabrics, 3 5-inch fabric squares. I have chosen these fabrics from Starberry to use for my ornament. The white on white is going to be my background fabric, and then I have the red for my motif, and then I'm going to be using this gray fabric for my backing. You could also opt to use a piece of felt for your backing. It doesn't matter. I thought it was cute with the print like you see here, but a piece of felt would work nicely as well. Then you will also need a fabric scrap for hanging. This little piece is about 1 inch by 13 inches. If you don't have fabric scraps that you want to use, you could use a piece of twine or a piece of yarn, just whatever you want to use for the fabric hanger portion of your ornament. And I opted to pink my edges so that I have less fraying on those edges of that piece of fabric. A 3-inch hoop. These you can easily purchase on Amazon. I will link to where I purchased this on Amazon in the description box below. And then you're also going to need little felt balls or pom-poms. Either option works well. These are felt balls, and you are going to see that I have 2 different sizes. So the first batch that I made, I used the smaller size. This is a 10 millimeter felt ball. This size is a 15 millimeter. And I think I'm going to end up liking this size better. You won't need quite as many of them, and it's just going to be a little bit larger around the perimeter of the hoop. You could also opt to leave off the little balls if you wanted to and just leave the wood hoop as your outside edge. I will also link to those. I purchased those on Amazon as well. The small size was sold out, so I don't know if I'll be able to link to that exact ones that I purchased, but I just purchased these this week, so I know those are currently in stock. So I'll link to what I can down below. And then a hot glue gun, and that is going to do it for your main supplies. All right, so let me tell you what you're going to need to do first. I have actually gone ahead and done this step, but I'm going to talk you through what you'll need to do. You'll just need a small square of your Heat and Bond Ultra Hold, and you are going to trace one of the shapes, just choose your favorite, onto the paper side of the Heat and Bond. You're going to notice, if you've never worked with Heat and Bond before, that one side is a smooth side, that's the paper side, and then the other side has a bit of a texture to it, and that is the fusible side. So we are going to be tracing onto the paper side, and you can just put your piece of paper right onto the shape that you want and trace that using a pencil. You might find it easiest to hold this up to a window or use a light box. I know when I was doing a lot of tracing for applique, one thing I would sometimes do is just get out my iPad or tablet and open up my notes app and just place everything right on top of my screen. There was enough light coming through my tablet that it gave me just a little bit extra without having to go over to a window and trace holding things up to a window. So that's just a tip if you want to be able to just put everything kind of on your lap and trace right on your lap. So you will trace out the shape that you want to use. Make sure that if your shape has a center square, that you also are tracing that onto your piece of paper. And then once you have traced, you are going to want to cut outside of the shape. Do not cut directly on the lines just yet. Make sure that you leave a nice perimeter of space around the outside of your shape. Next, we're going to be doing a little bit of ironing, so I need to get my ironing board out for that step. This is the block pattern that we are going to be using for this specific ornament, and I am using red for the motif here in the center. So I have my red 5-inch square. I'm going to flip it so that we have wrong sides facing up, and then I'm just going to place my shape right on that square. I have my iron set for no steam, and I have it set hot. Now, depending on the fusible web that you are using, you'll want to follow the directions that are included with the paper-backed fusible web, but I use heat and bond so often, and these are the settings that I use. I don't even look at those instructions anymore. So if you're using the heat and bond ultra hold, or really any of the other lighter weight heat and bonds, this is the same way, the same temperature settings, no steam, that I would use with those products as well. We're just going to iron this a little bit. Now, you're going to find, if you have not worked with fusible web before, that step goes a lot faster than you might be thinking. It's really just a quick iron across the whole thing, not a lot of ironing needed. If you iron for too long, leave that heat on there for too long, you're going to find that your glue kind of dissolves. So if you have no stickiness, no shininess, you'll see what I mean after we peel off our backing here in a little bit. You're going to know that something went wrong. If it's not, like it's adhering right now, and if you see that it's not adhering, it might be that you have left your iron on that piece of fabric for a bit too long. So keep that in mind. Once we have fused our fusible to the wrong side of our fabric, we're ready to cut that out. And here is where we are going to be cutting on those lines. I'm actually going to start with that center. I chose this one so that I could show you how to trim out the center. You're just going to want to fold that in half. Make yourself a little slit there, right in the center of that square, and that's going to allow you to get your scissors in there and then trim out the center of this piece here. And we're going to trim out the center first, and then I'll go through and do the perimeter of the little block next. If you have a smaller scissors, you might like using something smaller. I have my trusty orange-handled Fiskars that I use for just about everything. It was the scissors my mom used growing up, and we were never allowed to touch the orange-handled scissors. I remember that. And so when I moved out and needed to buy a scissors for sewing, this was the same scissors that I purchased, and I've been happily using my orange-handled Fiskars for years. But you might find that you like using a smaller scissors. I think this is just what I've gotten used to, and I think it probably is a large scissors for trimming this small piece up, but it's what I always use. Okay, so then we're just going to trim around the whole thing. I'm not going to make you watch me cut this whole thing on camera, but I'm just going to keep sewing, and once I get this trimmed out, I will show you the next step that we need to take. And here is what our little shape is going to look like once it's all cut out. You can see I still have the paper on the back and from the front, and then this is the little white piece of fabric I'm going to be using for my background. Next, we need to take that paper off, and we're just going to get a little bit of the edge going here and peel it right off. Now you are going to notice, yes, you can see it on camera here, you see how it's shiny? That means that your fusible is on the back of that piece. That's what you want, and it's going to feel really smooth to the touch. If you get to this part and your paper doesn't peel nicely, there's no shininess, and you're just having a little bit of a fuss with it, it might be that your fusible either hasn't adhered and it needs just another quick press of the iron, or it might be that you have left it on there too long. This is what we want it to look like at this stage of the game. The next thing that we need to do is to put it on the center. We're going to iron it onto the center of our white square. I find that the easiest way to do this is to just finger press the edges of my background square so that I have something to center it with. You can just hit this with your iron if you want to. Just kind of quick like that so you have a little bit of a crease there. And then we're going to do the same thing in the opposite direction. Just a little bit of a crease. And there we have that. Now I am noticing my little piece here, I can choose to set it so that my center square is more of a diamond shape as opposed to the square, or I can give it a turn and set it like this. And I think I'm going to opt to set it this way, just for something a little bit different. So that means that I am going to be lining up my points with the crease there in the center, which makes it really easy to line up. That's what I'm going to do right there. And then we're going to press this again. Same settings on my iron, and probably just a little bit longer than the first time. Something like that. So that is fused onto my piece. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this is a no-sew ornament project, but you can always opt to finish those edges if you enjoy machine applique or hand applique. Now would be the time when you could finish those edges. But for a quick project this time of year, I'm going to skip that step and we're doing this completely no-sew. So there we go. The next thing that we need to do, we're going to take our hoop. We're just going to put this into the hoop. And you're going to want to kind of center everything in this hoop. I found it easiest to, oh, it looks like he's lined up pretty nicely already. I was going to say I found it easiest to sort of put it in there and then make any adjustments that I need to, but looks like that's going to be just about right. I'm going to pivot that just a little bit over. And then just crunch that down in there. You can take your time with this step and make sure that you're happy with the way everything is lining up inside your hoop. And then you are going to tighten that up. It's being a little fussy with me. Get over there. Tighten that up as much as you want to. And then we're going to trim off the excess fabric. It's nice and tight in there. And just take your trusty old scissors, the orange handled scissors again, and just get it right up against the edge. You could opt to do this ahead of time, but it's easier to do it at this stage just because you can pull everything tight when you're centering up. So I'm just trimming that edge off, and then we're actually almost done with this project already. I'm going to keep trimming that off, and then I'll meet you here for the next step. And here is what that is going to look like once you've trimmed everything away. You don't have to worry about this edge being just exactly perfect. It's going to get covered up with our fabric circle there on the back anyways. The other thing that I did up here at the top is I shot just a little drop of hot glue right underneath that edge right there, just to hold this little top piece of fabric in place. So you can choose to do that if you want to or not. That just kind of holds it in place there just a little bit. So I did that as well. The next thing that we're going to do is cut that circle for our back. To do that, you'll take your square that you want to use for the backing, and we can just use our hoop for our template. Now, the pack of hoops that I purchased came in, I think it was a pack of 12. So I just took apart one of the hoops and then just used that to trace everything, which is probably what I would do here if I had an extra one just hanging around down here, so that I didn't have to use the one I had just gotten ready. But you're just going to trace around, I think you can see that, trace around the perimeter of the hoop, and that is going to be your template to use to cut out for what you need on the back here. So once again, we are cutting, cutting, cutting. As you can see, a little bit of cutting, a little bit of gluing, a little bit of ironing. And that is what we're doing for this project. I won't make you sit through watching me cut out this circle, but we will jump straight ahead in the video to the next step. There's the circle all cut out and ready to go. And we are just going to hot glue that right to the edge of our ornament here. So I've got my glue gun hot and ready to go. I'm probably just going to do a portion of it to start with, stick it down, and then go back through and do the other part. Do be careful when you are doing this step. That glue is going to be hot around the edge there, so pay attention to that. You could probably also opt to use one of those like an Elmer's all-purpose glue. I think would probably work in place of the hot glue. I didn't test that out, so I can't be sure, but that glue tends to work pretty well. Not the school glue, not the washable school glue, but that all-purpose works on a lot of different products. So if you didn't have a glue gun, but you had the all-purpose Elmer's glue, that would certainly be worth a try. Might take a little bit longer to dry, but it's a nice product. All right, so we just tack that onto the back. And again, this is the spot where you could use the piece of felt if you wanted to, whichever your preference is, fabric or felt. We just kind of want to cover those edges a little bit, or choose to leave it. You could get away without putting anything on the back. Now, when it's hanging on a Christmas tree, you do see both sides of the ornament, so something to keep in mind if you don't want to put a back on, but you certainly don't have to. You can make this project your own. Okay, and that's what it looks like from the front. And then the last thing we need to do is add those pom-poms. The nice thing about those pom-poms is if you have a little bit of overhang on your fabric backing, it's not going to matter because we're just going to cover that right up with the edge there. So I'm going to grab my pom-poms here and bring those over. And we'll have to figure out how we want to space these. And this you'll just want to, once you have placed them around the perimeter, you'll kind of know how many you want and how evenly you want them spaced. You could choose to go as close or as far apart as you want on these little guys. And I think I'm kind of liking that spacing. We're going to use the glue gun again to just glue these onto the edge of our little ornament. I think, should we put one more in there? I think if we do one more and then just kind of space these a little bit, I think we'll have it. So something like that. Now you can see, you can attach them to the metal if you want to. You don't have to, but you certainly can. So I might go up just a little bit there. And I think that is going to be about what I'm going to do. They don't have to be perfect. You can kind of eyeball it a little bit, but I think that is about, I might move those up just a little bit, about what I'm going to do here. And all that I will do is I'll just put a little dab of the hot glue and then stick it on down, right like so. Let me do that first one and then we'll continue going. So a little dab of glue like so, and then just stick your little felt ball right on there, just like that. And you're just going to continue going around the perimeter, and then we just need to add that fabric tie. This is what it will look like after you've added all of your little pom-poms on. That's what the back looks like. I went ahead and threaded my fabric strip through the top metal piece there so that all I have left to do is just to tie this. I like to do this. Whoops, let me get you back on screen here. I like to do this sort of a tie like you would for a balloon if you were tying a balloon. Bring it through there and then move the knot all the way up to the edge. Of course, you can tie this however you want to. There's no right or wrong way, but that's how I like to finish that off. And there it is, ready to hang onto your tree. Just a cute, simple, pretty quick project. No sewing involved. And sometimes us quilt makers, or even those who aren't quilt makers, like to have a quilty project that we can do quickly, especially this time of the year, without a lot of fuss. And I think this little project fits the bill. This gives you a nice idea too of the different size in those pom-poms. I thought I was going to like this larger size better, and I think I do, but that small size is pretty cute too. So when you go to purchase your pom-poms or felt balls, just remember this size is a 15 millimeter size and this size is the 10 millimeter size. And that is how those two are going to look. Now, you're going to have to let me know if you enjoy the other ornament stops on today's channel lineup. And of course, if you have other topic ideas, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that you would like to see for future events like this, I would love to hear those. I think this could be a really fun thing to kind of keep going in 2024. All of the information that I said would be linked will be in the description box below this video, along with the other channels participating in the ornament Saturday Social today. So be sure to check out that description box. If you have any questions about what I shared today, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you again next time.